Are you a goal setter? Do you want to be a goal getter? Goal getting, don't just set them, get them, will provide you with proven techniques and skills to set goals for successful goal achievement and to replace negative goal-killing programming with positive goal-getting oriented thoughts so you can get the goals you set. I'd like to thank my friend, Mark Sentinger, for providing today's theme music, Baccarat. You can check out more of Mark's work at marksentinger.com. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Goal Getting, Don't Just Set 'em, Get 'em, the Goal Getting Podcast. Episode 1 is Be Smart About It, where we teach you about SMART goals. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Goal Getting Podcast. Goal Getting, Don't Just Set 'em, Get 'em. Hi, I'm Tony Woodall. Glad to meet you again here on the program today. I want to thank you again for listening. I appreciate all my friends listening to us talking about goal setting. Goal Getting, Don't Just Set 'em, Get 'em is a program that we created to help you achieve the goals that you set, to overcome negative programming within the subconscious mind by replacing it with positive goal achievable and goal achieving thoughts and processes within our subconscious. We're also going to teach you how to set goals properly. I believe that there's a particular program and a particular pattern that has to be followed to be able to set goals. And whenever you talk to goal setting people or anybody who tells you you need to set your goals, they always go back to telling you that you should set SMART goals. What are SMART goals? It's not goals that are more intelligent necessarily, but they are goals that follow a pattern called SMART. And what SMART is sort of a methodology of thinking so that you can be more successful. Now, where did the term SMART goals, or where did the program or the concept of these SMART goals come from? Well, in 1981, George T. Doran presented SMART goals as part of a project or article that he was writing for Management Review. The paper was titled, "There's a Smart, S-M-A-R-T, way to write management's goals and objectives." And he was discussing the difficulty and the importance of setting objectives. And in doing so, he created this new mnemonic acronym for each one of the letters so that it helps you understand what a SMART goal is. And each letter of SMART, S, M, A, R, and T, have a particular meaning and a representation. We're going to talk about that today because they are very important when you're setting goals, to make sure that you have these particular items or concepts within your goals that you set. So we're going to talk about SMART goals today. So within each of those letters, the term SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. That's the 5 characteristics of a goal that you need to make sure that you have within there. So we're going to go over those specifically one by one so that you can understand what we're referring to when we're talking about SMART goals. The first one, the S within SMART goals, is specific. And what that really means is that your goals are supposed to be and should be precise and clear rather than broad or, just kind of arbitrary type things, ambiguous. You want to make sure that your goals are very specific. If you've listened to episode 0, we talked about clearly defined written goals. When Napoleon Hill was researching his book, Think and Grow Rich, he spoke with all of the successful people in his time, and one of the underlying beliefs within each one of these persons was that they had clearly defined written goals. So your goals have to be specific, as clearly defined as possible. So that's one of the first things that you want to think about when you're setting goals, is make them as specific. And I like to always use the phrase, specific is terrific, because it helps us remember that we want to make sure those goals are set up. Now, to give you an idea of a little specificity, that I like that word, specificity. Being specific with your goals and being more precise is, instead of saying, I want to get in shape or I want to lose weight, what you should do is be a little more specific. I want to join a health club and work out 3 days per week for at least 30 minutes per per day and I will lose weight. Now there you're being a little bit more specific in setting your goals, and that is very important. You've outlined tasks and actionable items that you can actually work on in that goal instead of just saying I'm going to get in shape. We talk about New Year's resolutions also in previous episode, and people always at the end of the year and right at the beginning of the new year, they go out and set New Year's resolutions, and most people do not follow through on those because they really don't make them very specific. Their New Year's resolution is to lose weight. Their New Year's resolution is to quit smoking. Their New Year's resolution is something very vague and ambiguous. So with the SMART goals and setting a SMART goal, you're going to set your first goals are going to be set very specific. So S is for specific. Now M is really one of the more important goals or important concepts in goal setting, and that's measurable. Goals have to be quantifiable. They have to be able to be tracked. One of the phrases that Tom Peters, the author of In Search of Excellence and Passion for Excellence, talks about is what gets measured gets done. And I did some sales training for being a loan officer through the Zenix Academy, and one of the things they taught was measuring your tasks that you do every day, the different set of actions that you have defined to reach your goal. Have a measurable way to track that. So you want to make sure that whatever you do, you come up with an action plan that can actually be tracked as you're going through your goals. So that's what the M stands for. So you've got specific and you've got measurable. The third point and the A within that is that the goal has to be achievable or attainable. You have to be able to achieve that goal. That's not hard to think, or hard to come up with, because some people actually set goals that are out of their capacity to reach them. If I was a 15-year-old, I wouldn't, in high school, I wouldn't say I'm going to be a doctor next year, because there's no way. You've got too much education that you have to, achieve and complete before you can actually be a doctor in that time. Now, of course, there's always Doogie Howser, and I actually read something online the other day about an 11-year-old who is entering college. So I guess it's possible, but not easily for the average person. Is not something that is attainable by most people. So you want to think about that. Your goal has to be achievable. It has to be attainable. Something that you can possibly achieve. And that's not to say that something can't be achieved, but it may not be achievable within the time frame that you've set or whatever. So when you're thinking about your goals, when you're working on them, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, and it has to be achievable. So those are the first three. SMART goals. The S is for specific, the M is for measurable, the A is for achievable. Then we get to the R. The R is realistic. Realistic goals are governed by what you're both willing and able to do to achieve those goals, the kind of work that you're going to do. It doesn't mean that they can't be high goals and they can't be stretch goals. If you've heard the term stretch goals, we hear that a lot in our business that I work in. They talk about, let's set a goal, then let's set a stretch goal. What can we do above and beyond what our normal goal is? You have to really believe that you can achieve that goal for it to really be successful and be realistic. If you don't think you can do it, then, odds are you're probably not going to do that. You've heard the old adage, what the mind can believe, can achieve. And that's true in most respects, provided you're willing and able to do the work needed to achieve that goal. So make sure your goals are realistic, that you've got, a timing or a plan that you can actually succeed at. Can't be something that is so far and high above reach that you can't really achieve it, that it's unrealistic to do that. That's very important. But it all realistic boils down to some of the others: specific, measurable, and achievable. It really does have to be realistic. Can you really see yourself achieving that goal? So realistic is the R from SMART. Then the last item is time-bound. T is time-bound. Goals have to have an endpoint. They have to have a deadline. Napoleon Hill also once said that, goals without a deadline are just wishes. And that's really what they are. They're wishes if you don't have a finite deadline that you want to accomplish that. And I like to put the deadline in my specificity, and when I'm being specific in defining what my goal is, I really like to put a deadline or a time frame in that. It's not to say you're always going to achieve it in that time frame, but you have to have at least some sort of deadline, because otherwise it'll never ever get done. We just will find all kind of things to get things done that don't really pertain to that goal, and just kind of put it off and procrastinate and do whatever it takes to not do that. So you want to make sure that your goals have a sense of urgency. Urgency tends to motivate us as humans. We want to make sure we do things, and if you're going to run out, that's a big thing in marketing, is that sense of urgency. Be the last one to get it, or get it now because you won't be able to get it in 10, 9, 8. You know how they count down on some of these shopping channel things, you've got 10 left. So as you start feeling that sense of urgency, people start to buy because they want to make sure they achieve whatever they're trying to get. So time bound is the T in SMART. So we've covered all of the characters: the S for specific, the M for measurable, the A for achievable or attainable, the R for realistic, and T for time bound. So those are the SMART goals, and I really do believe that those are critical concepts that you have to have for goal setting, and we'll talk about those in my ebook, 9 Steps to Successful Goal Setting, that talks about those particular items in a more detailed format. And you can get that ebook free on our goalgettingspodcast.com website. Go there on our show notes for goalgettingpodcast.com/episode 1. And in the show notes, we'll have a link so you can go out and get a copy of our free ebook, 9 Steps to Successful Goal Setting. I really appreciate you listening today. SMART goals are very important. One of the things that I've been reading is from the UC Davis Education Department. They actually came up with what they call smarter goals. We always want to be smarter if we can. And they came up with a smarter, adding 2 additional characters on the end, an E, and their E represents evaluate. So they want you to evaluate your goals regularly and adjust them as needed to account for changes in family or job responsibilities or availability of resources. And that's, that's one of the things that can happen. Goals may change, priorities may change, your family's circumstances may change, and you may not need or want that goal any longer. One of my goals that I talk about is being able to purchase a BMW Z4. It was one of the things that I had on my goal list that I wanted to achieve, and I had specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound goals that I had. The problem now is that that goal has kind of changed. It's not really a priority of mine, primarily because I now live in California and I only drive 2 miles to the BART station to get to my office in the morning. So I don't really drive that much. I put on my, what I call my BART car, roughly around 4,000 to 6,000 miles a year just going to and from BART. And it's not something where I do a lot of driving now. I used to spend, 2.5, 3 hours a day driving to and from work when I lived in Atlanta. The traffic there is outrageous, but I don't do that because of the great mass transit in the San Francisco Bay Area. Riding on BART, it makes it so much easier to commute. So I don't have a need for a car. So that's not one of my priorities right now. It is a goal. I still want to have that car. The Z4 is a phenomenal automobile from BMW, and that is one of my next cars that I will purchase, but it's not a goal of mine to acquire that any longer. My priorities have changed. My thought processes have changed over the years, and that's, again, it's something I'd like to have, but it's not a goal that I need. So the next time I buy a car, I do plan on doing that. I'm just not ready to buy another car at the moment. So goals do change. So they recommend, UC Davis Education Department added that E for evaluate your goals regularly and, readjust your schedule. The other is to redo, is R for the second R in smarter, is to redo your goals after the evaluation process and iteratively go through the smarter process. So re-evaluate what you've done and then redo your goals. So set them again because they may have changed due to those circumstances. Are they something that you need now based on your circumstances in your life? Or do you just, want to change them and set new timing, new specifics on that goal. So I like the smarter goals. I think that's very important to, understand that not only could they need to be smart, but you can also be smarter. So go out there, start working on some smart goals. If you have goals set for this year, instead of New Year's resolutions, when you get ready to set your New Year's resolutions, think about, what are my goals for this year? What's something that I need to do to achieve, and start planning, smart goals going forward. Again, I appreciate you listening to the podcast. The Goal Getting, Don't Just Set 'em, Get 'em program is very positive and successful. We want to make sure that you understand as we go forward how we can work on, your subconscious programming, and changing some of those negative habits or those negative thoughts that you have in your subconscious and turn them into, successful goal achieving thoughts and processes with some of the techniques we'll teach you later on. But we're going to start talking about goal setting and how to set your goals properly. And within that, we'll start going into more of the details of the goal getting part, where we deal with the subconscious mind and making changes to that. So I appreciate you listening. Check out our show notes at goalgettingpodcast.com/episode 1. We will talk with you later and look forward to speaking with you. If you want, please check our theme music provider, Mark Sensinger, at marksensinger.com. He's a phenomenal friend of mine up in the Boston, Massachusetts area. You can check out his website. He periodically performs or has some of his works performed by many of the local community symphonies and orchestras and stuff up in Boston. So have a great day. Look forward to seeing you next week. Go to iTunes, and I would appreciate it if you can go in, leave a comment or a recommendation for the show. Goal Getting Podcast, Goal Getting, Don't Just Set 'em, Get 'em. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, and have a great week.